Hey there, and welcome to Lantern and Linen. Wherever you are tonight, make yourself comfortable. Let the day slow down and stay with me for a little while. Tonight, before you close your eyes, take a moment to notice the quiet environment that surrounds you. Notice the familiar weight of the blanket as it settles over your shoulders. Feel the specific texture of the pillowcase against your cheek, and the way the mattress naturally yields to the contours of your body, supporting you without any effort on your part. You are in a safe, comfortable space. Rest. As we spend some time exploring the quiet, ancient history of the ordinary bed, you do not need to remember everything we talk about tonight. If you fall asleep before we reach the end of the journey, nothing has been missed. Let your attention rest whenever it naturally wants to rest. You can simply listen to the sound of the words and the fire sounds, allowing them to drift past you like leaves on a slow-moving river, carrying you gently towards sleep. The object you are resting on right now, this arrangement of fabric, cushioning, and support, is something you likely interact with every single day. It is the place where you begin and end your walking hours. Beneath the smooth woven cotton or linen of your sheets, there are layers of material carefully engineered to provide warmth, softness, and stability. There is the duvet or quilt, trapping a thin layer of warm air. There is the structured core of the mattress, absorbing the weight of the day. There is the quiet, solid frame holding it all above the floor. It is a deeply ordinary object. We rarely stop to think about how it was made, or where the idea for it came from. But this simple act of laying down a soft surface to separate ourselves from the hard earth is one of the oldest human traditions. The desire for a comfortable place to sleep is a thread that connects you to people who lived thousands of years ago in worlds that looked entirely different from our own. If we travel back through time, moving slowly past the centuries of iron frames, beyond the grand wooden four-posters of the Renaissance, and past the woven robe beds of the Middle Ages, we find ourselves in a much quieter, older world. The earliest known examples of beds do not look like the ones we use today, but they were built with the exact same intention: to create a dedicated, comfortable space for rest. Nearly 10,000 years ago, and likely long before that, humans were already crafting deliberate sleeping areas. In rock shelters and ancient dwellings, archaeologists have found the quiet remnants of early beds. These were not pieces of furniture, but rather carefully constructed layers of natural materials built directly on the floor. Imagine a late afternoon in an ancient landscape. The sun is beginning to lower, casting long golden shadows across the valley. The air is cooling, and the day's foraging and hunting are coming to a close. Inside a sheltered cave, or a simple structure made of branches, a resting place is being prepared. The people of this time gathered specific plants from the surrounding environment. They walked down to the edge of a nearby river to collect tall, flexible sedge, grasses and reeds. These materials were chosen because they were resilient, holding their shape and providing a springy layer of insulation against the cold ground. They carried bundles of this green grass back to their shelter, the scent of fresh water and crushed leaves following them. They laid the sedge grass down in thick layers, creating a soft woven mat. But they did not know how to stop there. They understood their environment intimately, and they knew how to use the plants around them to ensure a peaceful night. On top of the grass, they placed a large layer of broad, aromatic leaves. Often these were leaves from ancient camphor trees or wild laurels. When these leaves were crushed under the weight of a sleeping body, they released a gentle, sharp scent, a natural fragrance that naturally repelled insects and kept the sleeping air clean and undisturbed. This early bed was a living thing, deeply connected to the seasons. It required a regular rhythmic tending, just as you might wash your sheets and make your bed in the morning. The people of the distant past had their own routine of maintaining their resting places. After several weeks, when the leaves dried out and the grass lost its spring, the entire bed would be swept up and burned in the communal fire. The soft, powdery ash would be left behind, creating a dry, clean base that further protected against dampness and pests. Then, a fresh layer of newly gathered green sedges and aromatic leaves would be placed over the ash. This slow, deliberate process of gathering, layering, and renewing the bed was simply a part of ordinary life. It was a chore, but a comforting one. It meant that tonight there would be a clean, soft place to sleep near the warmth of the fire. As the centuries passed and humans began to build permanent settlements, the way they slept began to slowly change. With the rise of agriculture and the domestication of plants and animals, new materials became available. The bed gradually moved from a collection of leaves on the earth to a structured, crafted object. In the sun-baked landscapes of an ancient Egypt, around 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, we see some of the first raised beds. The earth was no longer the resting place. Instead, woodworkers began to carve frames from timber. Wood was a precious material in the desert, often imported from distant cedar forests. The craftsman would carefully shape the legs of the bed, sometimes carving them to resemble the strong legs of lions or bulls. The base of these early raised beds was not made of wood, but of woven string or leather. Imagine a craftsman sitting in the shade of a linen awning, his hands moving steadily as he weaves lengths of durable twine back and forth, over and under, creating a taut, flexible knit across the wooden frame. This woven surface was designed to yield slightly to the sleeper's weight, providing a kind of ancient suspension. Because the nights in the desert could be warm, thick mattresses were not always used. Instead, folded layers of coarse linen were laid over the woven string, and at the head of the bed there was no soft pillow, but rather a curved wood headrest. It was curved to cradle the base of the neck, elevating the head just enough to allow the cool night breezes to circulate around the face and hair. It looks rigid to our modern eyes, but to the people of that time, wrapped in thin linen, the gentle flow of cool air brought a deep and restful sleep. Moving forward in time and traveling north across the Mediterranean to the cooler climates of ancient Rome, the bed grew softer and heavier. The Romans embraced the concept of the stuffed mattress. The frame remained wood, sometimes decorated with bronze, but the surface became plush. Ordinary citizens would take large sacks woven from sturdy fabric and fill them with whatever dry, soft materials they had on hand. Often this was dry hay, gathered after the summer harvest. The hay smelled of the sun and the open fields. For those with a little more wealth, the mattresses were stuffed with sheep's wool. As we drift further through history, moving into the Middle Ages, the climate in northern Europe required an ever greater focus on warmth and insulation. The houses of this era were often drafty, with unglazed windows and thick stone walls that held the winter chill. The bed had to become more than just a piece of furniture. It had to become a microclimate, a small enclosed room within a room. For the ordinary person living in a rural village, the bed was a simple, sturdy wooden box, raised slightly off the cold dirt or stone floor. Inside this shallow box lay a mattress called a palissy, which was simply a large canvas sack tightly stuffed with straw. The straw crackled and shifted when you lay on it, offering a firm, familiar support. Over this, rough woolen blankets were layered. The wool was heavy, sometimes dyed with earthy roots and bark, smelling faintly of wood smoke and damp earth. But those in larger houses and castles The bed became an architectural marvel. This is the era of the great bed, surrounded by heavy curtains. The bed frame was massive, built from thick oak that smelled of wax and time. A grid of ropes was pulled tightly across the frame to support the mattresses. There was a specific routine to preparing this bed for the night. A servant or family member would take a wooden tool shaped like a peg and go around the edge of the bed, twisting and tightening the ropes that had slackened during the night. This lightening made the bed firm again. Over these taut ropes lay the first mattress, usually stuffed with straw or wool for a solid base. But on top of that lay the true luxury of the medieval night, the feather bed. The feather bed was a large sack stitched from densely woven ticking fabric, so the quills wouldn't poke through, filled entirely with the softest down from geese or ducks. Gathering enough down for a single mattress took an incredible amount of time. The feathers were light as air, drifting in the air light of the windows as they were carefully gathered and pushed into the linen sack. Once you were settled in the feathers, the heavy curtains surrounding the bed were pulled shut. These curtains were made of thick wool, velvet, or embroidered tapestry. When they closed, the drafty, echoing stone room vanished. The space became small, dark, and intimately quiet. The heavy fabric muffled the sounds of the wind outside, the patter of rain on the roof, and the distant settling of the house. The air inside the curtained bed grew warm from your own breath and body heat. It was a perfect, secure sanctuary. As we move on to the present day, the need for these heavy enclosed beds slowly faded. Houses became warmer, fireplaces improved, and eventually central heating arrived. The thick velvet curtains were taken down, the ropes were replaced by iron springs, and eventually by the engineered coils and memory foams we use today. The straw was left behind in the fields, and the heavy unbleached linen was replaced with soft, finely woven cotton. But the essential nature of the bed has never changed. The quiet ritual of returning to the space at the end of the day remains exactly the same. The smoothing of the sheets, the adjusting of the pillow, the final settling of the limbs as gravity takes over. Think of the bed beneath you right now. All of this history has been refined and simplified until it became the smooth, quite ordinary object in your room tonight. It requires no effort from you. There are no ropes to tighten. There is no straw to turn. There is only the soft surface waiting to receive the weight of the day. The room around you is quiet. The shadows are soft and still. The air in the room is steady. As you breathe in, notice the subtle, clean scent of the fabric. As you breathe out, feel your shoulders sink just a fraction of an inch deeper into the mattress. Your breathing becomes a little slower, a little deeper. The blanket feels pleasantly heavy, Every layer beneath you is there to support you. The pillow cradles you just as it was designed to do. You can let go of the day completely. The quiet darkness settles over the room like a soft, familiar blanket. The sounds of the outside world are distant and unimportant. There is only the gentle rise and fall of your chest, the steady, quiet warmth, the softness of the pillow, the yielding of the mattress. There is nothing more to do tonight, just the slow, steady rhythm of your breathing, just the quiet, heavy comfort of resting, letting go of thought, letting the quiet surround you, drifting slowly, sinking softly, resting